Welcome back with us in the vehicle here. Sorry about that. It's just again a little network problem. But in that time we've managed to make our way over to these lions. And we're now sitting with two of the Mapogo males. And they are very lazy. And as you can see, they're breathing very fast. Full bellies. So it means the diaphragm can't sort of help them to breathe as deeply as normal. So a lot of fast, shallow breaths. And these two guys just taking it very easy. Solly has just joined us here as well. He was sitting at the carcass earlier. We were about 300 meters or so, 300 odd yards away from where the giraffe carcass is that we saw this morning. And Solly was just giving me a couple of hand signals there now. I expect we might have a nice surprise somewhere in the next few minutes. So don't be fooled, these lions might be flat and not very open and visible at the moment. But I think we're going to see some nice things within a short space of time. Give you a bit of an idea of where we are. These lions obviously lying in the shade. It's still nice and warm, so they don't want to get even hotter from that, lying in the shade on some wet muddy earth there. And we're right next to a little pan. Can't really call it a water hole, but it does have water during summer months, normally after rain, and it's just got enough water to be drinkable as well. It's not too muddy, so this is a perfect place for a few lions to have a drink at. And what would be fantastic is if any of the other lions from the carcass come here as well. Obviously a few reasons. It would be nice to see them drink, but also they would bond with these males that are lying on the ground there. They would do a little bit of bonding again within the group. They had a very, very chaotic and wild night last night, so it's always after that you find that the males in the coalition will reassert their own bonds as well. Like those two at the moment, lying very, very close to each other. It's just reminding each other that we're partners, we're in this coalition together, through thick and thin, through fighting and new cubs. We will we'll persist through this as a coalition. And just before you joined us back here, just before the network came back up, we actually saw one of the males is one of the ones we hadn't seen this morning yet, which was quite exciting. So we've now seen 4 of them today, but hopefully when they move around a bit we'll be able to point out a few differences and characteristics of them again. Hey? Now and again, swatting a fly. Heads up there. We've just got another game drive coming in now. We've got to give them preference. Just going to see what we can do. Okay, great. Unfortunately, sometimes we miss the very distant noises just because we've got a little bit of buzzing on the vehicle, but Solly could hear that. The reason that lion picked his head up is he heard one of the other coalition, probably the 5th male, the one that hasn't been seen this morning, calling way up to the north. So that's why the head suddenly popped up. He just heard another lion roaring. Now, these lions within the group, they will know each other. So individually they would be able to recognize others within the coalition. Also, just out of interest, lions can also recognize specific other lions. So they can recognize their neighbors, and they could also know that my neighbors to the south are roaring to the south, that's normal. Or if they hear their neighbors to the north roaring to another direction, they would also know that it's not normal that they roar from that direction. So they actually communicate and understand quite a lot through their vocalization. And also what research has shown, a few different people that have done a lot of research in lion vocalization, but it's shown that they can distinguish up to 5 individuals. So a lion can hear other lions roaring and they will know there's 1 roaring or 3 roaring or 5. As soon as it's more than 5, normally they don't distinguish it too well. Probably just because it's not that often that lions or male lions will be roaring in larger groups than 4 or 5 males in a coalition. Like these Mapogos, these guys that we're now having, becoming very dominant in this area. It's not typical to have a coalition that big. And that opens up a whole world of possibilities in terms of what will happen over the next few months, how they're going to cope with this new territory that they've obtained. And